So I think that they were. Uh, so the Rift War was fought between um, King Gregoros, the current king, and the Lumiere.
Yeah, the 10th iteration of the
Yeah.
Lumiere. But
So
and that
they're kind of
guy,
this big force that are opposing the king. And I'm sorry, what was that?
oh, I was just saying they're a recurring force. They keep coming
Right.
back even after, because the fact that there had already been 10 of them meant that there were nine, there were nine previous ones that got defeated by the kings of old and the apocalypse of old, like people of old, dinosaurs even, like, you know and it's like this force that just wants extinction, and like they're like anti-natalist, like they but
Mhm.
yeah, the Rift War was fought between Lumiere the 10th and his sort of lieutenants, one being Solomon von Eberstark, the boar strong Lord of Death, then Corellin the Dark, who was, I think, I'm gonna get this mixed up, because there was him, and then there were the three underlings. Um, there's the priest. The no, sorry, I'm Solomon was took the title of Lumiere 10. Corellin the Dark was the Lord of Death, and then there was an currently unnamed priest who sort of spread their um, like message around the afterlife, and that's how they got people to join their cult.
Mm. So, um, anyway, so the reason I brought that up was just because uh, in book one you see them sort of pop up. You see Solomon, that guy. He pops up as this kind of tentacle creature. I can't remember exactly the nature of it, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
invade people's consciousnesses,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually takes control, and they join this kind of hive mind. Um, and especially at the end of the book, you see kind of more signs of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you could read, what was that last like sentence of the prophecy again?
The tomes form the path. The path seeks a consciousness to occupy.
Right. So there, it seems like the path um seeks a consciousness. That sounds um very Lumiere esque.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that it's never stated is who wrote the prophecy.
Yeah. So I gotta wonder.
Yeah, it seems like it's existed before Gregoros was king, and as much as Gregoros likes to posture that he's been around forever and will be around forever, he was not. His father was king before him, and in between King Nostrum and Gregoros, there was Queen Natalia, and like then that's why the town Aransasai is named that, because it's named for the queen who was Gregoros's wife, who that's not really mentioned in book 1. But yeah, there have been other rulers, and before Nostrum there was the first Afterliffian People's Republic, and like that was a afterlife wide, almost an empire, right? And before that it was the second age of technology, and there were a bunch of kings there, and then you know there was a cataclysm, and before that you get the first age of technology, and like the begin, and all the way back, like no one knows how long the afterlife has really been around, but it's older than Earth. That
Mm,
much they know. So it's older than 4 billion years. Like
okay. And
uh
it makes you wonder who was on the afterlife. If Earth, I mean, Earth wasn't even there to populate the afterlife. by things dying.
Yeah, well, there.
What kind of beings were on the afterlife then?
Yeah, I think it's mentioned. I don't know if it's. No, I don't think they're mentioned in book one. The Givide,
Hmm.
the Iron Men
Oh,
who ruled before, is what they're called.
oh,
But
interesting.
anyway, yeah. So we this story you just takes you down fucking rabbit holes all across the like the play. You can talk about so much different stuff.
Yeah, and we haven't
But
even talked about Jack Sharp yet.
yeah, oh my God. Yeah. So one thing with book one is there are five point of view characters. There's Ben and Peter, who we've talked about, and they're kind of the main story. But there are three other characters who each have their own sort of perspective. Like they give you a view into the world when Ben is either unconscious or not like present, or like for example when Ben is knocked out to bring him to the submarine, you get the perspective of Andrei Ivanov, who is a nasty, nasty guy. He's like he's known as the Butcher of Heroes Folly, because he basically incited the war, or helped incite the war. There was a protest in the Heroes Folly mountain range, protesting the death of the previous Thane of Universe 8, and he went there with a retinue of men and slaughtered a bunch of people. They had a music festival. They had you know, and they call it in the South. They call it the Battle of Heroes Folly. In the North, they call it the Massacre. You know, and because yeah, and it's debatable what actually happened, but most likely it was an act of terror brought on by the loyalist faction. Um, and so you see from his perspective and his cynicism about the world and his want for power and all of this, and like he's just like I don't want anybody to say no to anything I say, and he just steamrolls through his own men and people who are supposed to look up to him. um, so that's one of the characters. He's kind of the antagonist. Then there's Julia Nixon, who is a soldier at Fort Lightchild, which is the scene of a big battle that happens between the Sun Nation and the soldiers stationed there. So she kind of provides the Thane's Isle military perspective. The last point of view chapter, and a lot of people's favorite, is Leon Brox, who is an apocalypse. He's a child of ice. So he controls the powers of ice. He has a turquoise wisp blade, and he is basically watching the government get taken over by corporations um, in his chapters. And Paul, if you want to talk about that, feel free.
Uh, yeah. So, um, I, I'm sorry. Which character was it that you just mentioned?
Leon, and we were getting into the Jack
Yeah.
Sharp sort of
Okay.
the
Yeah,
West
we're
North
getting. Oh,
conspiracy.
yeah. So, Leon is a interesting character. He's one of the Apocalypses, and well, he's one of the five Apocalypses. I want to be clear, who are already in place
Hmm.
because they're waiting for the chosen five to show up, and that would make 10, which is kind of what they're supposed to be at.
Right.
Um, he's one of the five who is already there, and uh, he's like suffered along with probably the other Apocalypses a lot of abuse from the Thane,
Hmm.
who is in charge of kind of training all of them.
Yeah.
Kind of this complicated relationship with the Thane where he um sees him as maybe sort of a father figure, but also is, I guess, maybe like an abusive, father figure.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
he like so Zenzel Ezekiwe is the Thane of Universe 8. He's a child of light, so he has control over like plasma and like the way it's described is he has the power of a star inside his body. And he can, you know, really mess things up. And he kind of sees all of these like other apocalypses, with the exception of Morena Franco and Duncan Wolf, as being these like absolute weaklings. Um,
yeah.
and he he's a Zulu, and he served way back like before like during the colonial era in the Zulu army, and he was killed in a battle and has like all of this war trauma from like I wasn't a good enough soldier, and like if I'm gonna train they're gonna be the best soldiers ever, and like he but that turns into like this kind of abusive nature where he's just like these people under him, like these other apocalypses, are like not nearly at his strength, like, and they won't be for years, and he's just kind of like cleaning their clocks in the battle hall every single time. And like, just like they it leaves Leon kind of wondering what the point of it all is. But anyway.
yeah. So I mean, he's a little bit troubled, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, he's also got this kind of romantic thing with one of the others, I think he
Oh
is. It,
yeah.
he's not so interested in him. Uh,
Well, there's Sophia, who's a child of water, who is, yeah, they're in a romantic relationship. And like, Sophia is like this super beautiful, uh, like woman, and like, he became, and like she kind of seduced him, and that gives her more sway, and probably also avoids like the absolute lashing that the others like Desiree and Leon get in the battle hall. you
right.
know
So, so
like
so I was talking about Leon. So Leon has an interest, but yeah, also there's Sophia who's in a relationship with Thane.
oh, you were talking about Leon and Desiree.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah. So Leon is smitten with Desiree, who's this like kind of quirky and girl from France who she loves reading, she loves like learning, and like she's just kind of like this like she and Leon are very like-minded in a lot of ways. um but she just doesn't reciprocate his feelings, leaving him kind of feeling alone. um but she's still like a good friend to him, and I think he recognizes that.
yeah, yeah,
Like he's not like this guy who's like, no, like he's a pretty like understanding person, and like it's like, no, she's not into me, but I'll um I'll just make do with the situation and deal with my emotions. But it's kind of hard when you're in a stressful political situation like he's in.
yeah. So, um, so I guess we're just talking about Leon. So you mentioned that he's seeing things being overtaken by this sort of corporate guy,
Hmm.
right? So that would be Jack Sharp and his kids.
Yeah,
Uh,
and his corporation.
what's that?
And his corporation, Blue Armor Corp.
Yeah, so he's kind of the like evil capitalist, figure, I suppose.
Yeah.
And he's more or less got control of the blue steel on Thane's Isle. Like he
Hmm.
controls, and he also supplies the government with his blue steel that he mines.
Hmm.
And at the same time, it's indicated at one point that he's funding both sides of the war with the North, who's revolting. So he's
Yeah.
kind of just he's he's in it for the money. He's
Yeah, he's a dog. He's just like, he goes to where the money is, and
Yeah.
like and Jack Sharp is a very interesting character. He Not much is really known about him besides that he owns this company. Um, and that's kind of by design because there is a lot more to him that's kind of revealed towards the end of the book. And spoiler more, I should have said this in the beginning, but we are going to talk about like spoilers in this. So um, just be warned. If you want to read it, I'll give the Amazon link here. All purchases fund future stories because it's expensive to release these things. It costs like about $1,000 to get these edited, so it's anything helps. Uh, um, but anyway, so Jack Sharp has two sons. Um, Actually, hang on. I gotta use the restroom. We'll take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Okay, sure.
Okay, I'm back. You there, Paul?
I'm here.
Nice. So, I feel like you had something to say about Jack Sharp and all that.
What was I gonna say? Well, he's kind of forming his own faction because he's kind of trying to get endorsement from the Thane to build his own army, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to kind of blackmail the Thane by threatening to remove his blue steel resources, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Um, and so he's almost forming his own sort of faction here, with his own military. Um, but anyway, but what essentially happens is that his one of his kids, he's got two kids, and the naming is interesting because they all start with J.
Yeah, there's Jack, Jacob, and Jared.
Yeah, so Jack is the dad. And there's Jake and Jared. Jared um has a showdown with Leon.
Yeah. Oh, well, the political reason behind that showdown is interesting. So the way a lot of the companies work in Thane's Isle is they have two charters. One is owned by the government, the other is owned by the business owner. And Jack Sharp wants the government charter for the largest railroad network on Thane's Isle. He already has one because the guy who owned it sold it to him, but he wants full control over like to privatize what is effectively Thane's Isle's version of Penn Central. Like it's this railroad that's just been merged and merged and merged into all these different, like if you look at the map of Thane's Isle, and I can actually pull it up here. I'll pull up the colored incarnate version that I did. Um, Let me see. I need to. Okay, there it is. Um, yeah. So we look here. I don't know how to zoom in on this, so I guess I'll just make it bigger until. There we go. Okay, so here's a map of this is my original Thane's Isle map. So there are 5 railroads. And all of this dark blue, this is the West North Railroad. The green is the Eastern Gate. This red is the North Sea Capital, and this lighter blue is the Blue Ridge. So West North has just purchased the entire Eastern Gate network, which isn't mentioned until book 4. But that happened. So if you notice, West North goes to all of the biggest cities in the South. You have Kings Hill, Great Bridge, North Great Bridge, Aransas, Bankersville, which is where all the mints for gold and silver coins are. And then it goes down into the farming district where it kind of dissolves into like branch lines and that sort of thing. Um, Also, this map is definitely outdated because there's actually supposed to be a body of water here, but that's here nor there. Um, uh, that does a good job at explaining what's going on. So yeah, Jack Sharp takes control over that. And Zenzel is like, no, you can't do that. Like, you'll have way too much power. You own most of the blue steel mines. You own half of the railroad already. Like, and Jack Sharp, knowing Gregorian law and what you're allowed to do, says, I challenge, like, we'll settle this with a trial by combat. And if I win, I get the charter. If you win, you get you get the railroad becomes nationalized effectively. You get my charter back. Um and Zenzel, being who he is, agrees, and um the and in sort of a stroke of hubris doesn't let the better fighter of the two uh do it, because he's like, oh well, we'll be fighting humans. Desiree will absolutely destroy your son, and I don't want Sophia to fight because I don't want her to get hurt, because I love her. So we'll send Leon. And Leon's like, damn it. Like, and Jared is like a like he's a big boy. Like he it's described as him looking like a roast pig in his armor because he's just like so bulky, you know. And Paul, then you were gonna talk about the battle. I just wanted to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, totally. So, um, so they show down, and it's pretty much expected that an apocalypse can beat a human. Like
Hmm.
it shouldn't be really any real fight. I think there's a little bit of nervousness still because the stakes are so high for Leon.
Yeah, and he's not using his wisp blade either.
Oh, that's
His
true. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he's not allowed to use his wisp, but at the same time, he's still so much stronger,
right.
than, than any human, would be. So, it's a lot of pressure, but he should win no problem. So they go into the battle, and long story short, he loses.
Yep.
But there's a couple weird things that happen. I think he gets bonked in the head. I don't remember exactly how he got bonked in the head. I think a sword bonks him in the head.
It more than bonks him in the head. The sword hits him so hard that it smashes his helmet and cracks his skull.
That's what
Like
it was.
it
Yeah.
Yeah, like which shouldn't be possible from a human blow.
Right.
Like human strength. Like, so the way Wisp kind of works is it creates like a like almost like in between, like it kind of interacts with the nervous system and circulatory system, and the wisp in your body is the same wisp that comes out when you draw the sword, right?
Uh
So
huh.
it's thinner, but it's still like a protective shell. His bones should not have broken
Yeah,
under any
and
circumstance.
on top of that, he had a helmet on.
Right, yeah, like,
So
and
so he's fully protected, and but he gets bonked, and it's like having that kind of injury would have killed a human actually,
yeah, yeah.
but because he's an apocalypse, he survived, and I think his face is a little bit lopsided after that point or something. But
Right, yeah, like the bones kind of didn't. He has a bump in his head, and one of his eyes actually is like seeing worse now
yeah,
because of the like is for whatever medical reason. So now he
yeah,
needs glasses, and he feels like he looks like an idiot with the glasses on, you know. But
right. So he's got that going on, but so a that shouldn't have been possible. B, I think you see some like red, you know, glow or something during it. So it makes you wonder if like this guy that he's fighting, who's a human, has like a wisp or like what is going on.
hmm.
Um, and I think that's kind of revealed at the end. But I actually need to go, Chris. I'm sorry to abruptly leave. I have to teach a lesson at 3 online.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm down to continue this at another time. I'd love to
Yeah, we
just
will.
like keep going through the book. Um, I
Sure.
will end the stream here. Thank you for all the people who were lurking. Um, and yeah, we will be back